All right, time to gather around, time to talk, time to explore our feelings through video games. This is the We Are One, You Are Two PlayStation podcast. I am your host, Rob, in touch with his feelings, Fanzo. I'm joined by Matt. He may be a masochist.
Mindful of his
Mindful. Oh,
I was going to say the mindful of his feelings, Matt. You know
okay, Matt Rhodes. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, Robert. How are you today?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Also,
speaking of feelings,
for people, for consistency, heyo, because I mean, I feel like that's my greeting usually, but we kind of skip past that.
I do have one issue, Matt.
Uh-oh.
Lately, I can't drink coffee without spilling it somewhere. And so that's a real problem, especially doing a podcast with electronic equipment.
Get it together, man. Come on.
Goodness. And so I'm a little disappointed with myself. It's like I've drooled on myself at least twice today. I don't know what it is.
Stay away from light-colored shirts then.
Oh, don't worry. I'm in all black today, so I think we're set.
Fantastic.
So I just want to remind folks, if you like what you hear, you can go ahead and rate us first and foremost on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to us, Google Play, Stitcher, Patreon, Podbean, YouTube, Castbox, any of those. I personally like to listen back to us on Castbox, I think it's called. I think I mentioned that last week or the week before. So anywhere you listen to us, please go ahead and rate, like, and subscribe to us. We really appreciate it. Leave us some nice comments. I'll try to find and hunt those down if need be, if you want me to read it on air. Matt, we've got a great show lined up for people this week. I think we're going to be a little long, but that's okay. Lots of news to cover. We're going to talk a little bit about MK11's heavy price tag for their DLC expansion. I want to talk a little bit about the shorter, supposedly, AC Valhalla, just in terms of game length. And then also the rumor of the Prince of Persia reboot that I keep seeing floating around, among other things in the news.
What?
Yeah.
We'll get there, but I did not hear that. Okay.
Oh, no. Okay, well, then that'll be a treat for you. But first, I think we should always tell people what it is we've been playing.
Of course. Of course, I've been playing Fortnite and Rocket League. I missed the event last night. They did so I don't know if you've been paying attention to anything Fortnite, but they have this new party royale mode where it's literally just I think the phrasing is no sweat, just play. Which are there's no guns. It's just almost like a hub where you can just go kind of play casual like boat racing, quad racing games with your friend.
Oh, nice.
Time trial-y kind of things. And they had a concert last night with Steve Aoki, Deadmau5, and I forget the third guy. I do apologize, but they did a in-house concert in that specific mode. So I think it's kind of cool if that's something that they're going to go forward with. Obviously, Party Royale is something they're going to go forward with, but to kind of have live events or have DJs show up, even once a month, something cool like that would be pretty interesting take on Fortnite and how it can evolve to be that kind of a thing where people just kind of go to gather and hang out and enjoy friends.
Yeah, they've really turned it into a social space, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I almost wonder if that's them seeing a new future in this, that, they can blow their money on stuff like that and attract maybe talent, advertisers, and it's going to become like a concert venue of some sort of weird sorts.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that evolves and how that develops. But then, of course, Rocket League. You and I played a little bit of Rocket League last couple nights ago, 2 nights ago.
Something like that, yeah.
That new beach, I guess. So they're doing a Modes of May this weekend until, I believe, well, I guess by the time people hear this, it'll be over. But it's a beach ball is the mode. And I think by the time that people are hearing this, it'll be about to be the next one, which I believe is, it's not Heat Seeker. I forget what it's called. But
yeah.
It's some kind of crazy mode where the ball moves super fast and it's super bouncy, which would be super crazy and interesting to see. But yeah, And then all day today I've been playing Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is the second installation on the reboot. And it's been pretty good. I've literally got just lost in it the other day. I just like kept playing it. So I'm just like, I'm pretty, I would say like 2/3 of the way through maybe. You know, I'm still doing a kind of like completionist kind of a thing. I don't think I'll get I don't think I'll get a platinum for it because it's some of the like time trial-y, like replay expedition stuff seems a little bit too grindy for me.
Yeah.
But I'm still getting like other stuff to, you know, I always like the lore of most games, you know, so like finding like documents and like things like that. The one thing I really like about, because I'm a terribly slow reader, the one thing I really do like about all of the things that you find in Tomb Raider is they're red.
And I that's kind of like the audio logs in BioShock, right? If
Yeah.
I remember correctly. I love that. And I wish more games would do that because I think that's such a fantastic way to explore the world while something is told to you.
Right, exactly. I think it's so cool that like, you know, you're hearing this character from another age. Like it's not her reading it, right? It's the person who wrote it reading it aloud. So it's kind of, in my opinion, helps immerse yourself in the story a little bit more because of that.
Absolutely. I'd agree with that 100%. And that's kind of, again, that's probably one of my most oft requested features that I feel like we don't get nearly to the level that I wish we did.
Yeah. And hopefully with everything going forward with new systems, I mean, maybe that's where people will put their money, especially with Sony, like wanting the sound experience to be one of their huge things. You know, maybe they'll have more people developing like audio files for like, you know, things like that.
That would be incredible.
Yeah, I'd be super stoked for that. So we'll see. And then, of course, you and I played the nice little game called Streets of Rage 4, and we beat it.
Yes. Yeah, that's a short run through. That one relies way more on replayability, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But it was good. I mean, it was still like, what, 10 levels, 11 levels?
Yeah, it was more than that. It was like 13, I think.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, it's a really good, fun game. But it was really also nice to sit down with you and just play a game together, start to finish.
And we do have that in the news this week. We're actually going to talk a little bit about Streets of Rage because there's a little bit of, I don't want to say controversy, but I have seen in some circles a little bit of disgruntled feelings towards that developer as well as limited run games. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Okay. And what have you been playing, Robert?
Well, my list sadly isn't changing too much week to week just because I've got such big games in my list, and I'm also taking my time with them. So still playing Neo 2, still working my way through that, still working my way through Final Fantasy 7. Both of those are games I'm just taking my time with because I just like them. And Neo, I would actually like to finish up, but Final Fantasy, I'm in no rush to finish. I'm just enjoying playing like a chapter or two here or there because it's the kind of game that you just want to take in slowly. I've mentioned that before. I also, though, jumped in. So other than the stuff we played this week with Streets of Rage and Rocket League, I also jumped in with this little game called John Wick Hex.
Ooh.
I guess I don't want to give a full rundown and talk too much about it, but it's a great game for the gameplay. The graphics, I think, are going to turn a lot of people off because they're kind of janky looking. It's done in like almost like a comic book art style, but it's not the prettiest looking game, even if there's prettier comic book-esque games than this one, I guess. Sure. Is the way to put that. But so it's not the best. It's not a looker, right? It's not one you're going to show off to your friends and be like, man, look at how great John Wick is rendered in this game at all. Like, you will not even get close to saying that to anybody. And in fact, the replays are even janky. I was kind of ashamed to show a replay of the level I finished on Twitter because even then, like the audio's clips and it's out of sync, and sometimes the actions are out of sync with the audio.
Interesting.
But that aside, so if you toss that aside and you just focus purely on the fact that it's John Wick and its gameplay, and that Lance Riddick reprises his role as the desk clerk of the Continental, and who's the guy that owns the Continental?
No, that I don't.
The
know.
older gentleman that helps John Wick all the time.
It's
you
been
know
a
what I'm
while.
talking
Actually,
about?
I haven't even seen 2 or 3.
Oh, okay. Well, he's in the first one anyway.
Yeah.
He's also in it as well. So that's kind of neat. And then Troy Baker is the villain.
Nice. Is that guy in everything, or is it just me?
It feels like it, yeah. It takes place between, I think, it actually might take place before the first one, actually. I'm not sure. Or it takes place after the first one, but before the second one. I'm a little fuzzy on the details.
Yeah.
But I remember it takes place somewhere before the films or right after the first one, something like that. Anyway, the story is interesting to me so far, even though it's a pretty typical John Wick revenge story. But the gameplay is what really sells it. And it reminds me the most of Hitman Go meets Super Hot, because you're moving on a grid-based system, but enemies only move when you move. And you can position yourself in such a way that they never get a hit on you if you're good at it. Even if they're firing, you can position in such a way too that even if they're going to fire, you see every action. It's kind of, there's bars up above at the top of the screen. It shows you how fast every action is coming in and what your reaction time is. And so you can time it so that you roll out of the way before their gunshot gets off or as their gunshot gets off. And so they're going to miss you, right?
Yeah.
And so I can't tell you how many times I timed it so that I walked or rolled behind something right as they were firing their gun. And then I popped up as they were reloading or re-aiming and fired back and killed them. And so that's where it really makes you feel like John Wick. It's like you're planning out the moves and almost like bullet time, where you're able to sense everything they're going to do and when they're going to do it, and you can move accordingly.
Cool. Well, good thing you didn't talk about it for a long time.
No, yeah, I know. I said I wasn't going to talk about it, and then I did. And then the last thing I've been playing is Mud Runner.
Ooh, Mud Runner.
I fired up and did the tutorial. I didn't do much more than that.
Yeah. That's where I stopped too, but it's so much fun.
It is. I think it's going to be one of those games where I can just put on like a podcast or a show and not stress about like hearing dialogue or not stress about like getting attacked from behind. So I'm excited to actually play more of it. And so I'll probably get to that over the week. I'll probably use that as like a chill experience while I'm listening to some podcasts.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised at how involved that was.
It is.
Like with the menus and like the winches and like the, you know, I was just like, oh, okay. Like the load out, load in, like for, you know, logs and things like that. I'm just like, oh, dang, this is pretty involved.
Yeah. So I'm excited in that way to actually play through some of it. And then maybe when it goes on sale, get Snow Runner.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, realistically, Snow Runner is going to be
Mud Runner with snow.
Well, no, it's just like super cheap come Black Friday.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wouldn't mind if they put it on PS Now at some point in the near future.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Since Mud Runner's up there. But we'll talk about PS Now too.
Sure.
I wanted to get to a game that I always wanted to play on my PS3 and never got around to because I heard it was like a Kill Bill type game. And that's a game called Wet.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It was on the PS3, so I was going to try the streaming portion of PS Now.
Yeah.
But I didn't get to that in time. And so that will probably be something that I mess around with. Again, Wet and Mud Runner aren't exactly on the top of my to play list.
Sure.
I'm going to finish up Neo, Final Fantasy, and John Wick. And then there's a game coming out May 12th that I'm excited about that's an indie. So, but we'll talk about that probably in the drop this week.
Yeah, cool.
So let's move on from here, Matt. And let's go ahead and jump into some of the news. And then we'll total up the PSN game total later, a little bit later as well. But,
I mean, I already did it. So if you want to go
did you?
Total, I did, yeah.
Oh, did you add for this week?
I did, yeah. Today's the 9th, is it not?
Yeah. Did you add the number at the bottom?
I sure did.
So we're up to 276.
276, that's right.
So keeping track. So we are in May. And we have now, if you were bored during quarantine, you're like, there's nothing new to play. Since January, you've gotten 276 new games. Now, mind you, there are some repeats in there, I think.
I was going to say, the very first one we're going to read later is definitely a repeat from last week, but that's okay.
Yeah, and there are some games that I would not bother playing or suggesting you play. No offense to those developers. But nonetheless, there is something for everyone. There's 276 new games out, right? They may not be AAA quality, but they're
exactly
there. All right. So let's move into the news. So, Matt, the first thing I wanted to touch on, there's been a lot of Xbox. They had that Inside Xbox this past week.
Oh, man, that was so good.
It was good. And I noticed that a lot of them didn't talk about PS5 at all. Naturally, those developers are going to come out later. And a lot of them did come out the next day or 2 days ago or even today and said, oh, yeah, this is also coming to PS5 and PC and Stadia. But the one thing we haven't heard about that Microsoft keeps droning on about is buy a game on your on your Xbox now. And when you get upgraded to the Series X, you can play it there too, right?
Yeah.
And so we've been hearing a lot of this, buy it on Xbox, and it'll recognize that any system you're on, basically higher than the Xbox One of Xbox Series X, you will get the game for free.
Right.
And so it's almost like a forwards compatibility thing as much as backwards compatibility. We haven't heard that much on PlayStation's side. And we can't tell if developers are being coy because they don't want to steal the thunder from Sony or if it's not true. But this week, EA did come out and suggest during a conference call, an earnings call with investors, CFO Blake Jorgensen did comment and say that, quote, note this year that the phasing includes the effect of revenue recognition from the games we are launching for the current generation of consoles that can also be upgraded for free for the next generation, end quote. And so he didn't say Xbox. He said the current generation for the next generation. And so what we can extrapolate from that is more than likely it's going to be your PS4 games are also getting souped up versions for PS5. And you'll be able to get those next gen ports for free. That's
awesome. Because I'm not going to lie, that was one of the things that really struck me about that Xbox thing was the fact that, there were so many games where like, it'll be available on Xbox One. And if you buy it on Xbox One, you can get it for free on Xbox Series X. If that's the way they're doing things moving forward, that is phenomenal. I'm excited as hell for that.
Yeah. And that really makes sense. We know that that's got to be true because within that EA portfolio, they've already talked about that Apex Legends would get the PS5 treatment and the Xbox Series X treatment, that they would move those games over to those consoles as well. And so it makes sense that if they're going to do it with that title, that they would do it with all their titles. And so I think that also, and since Xbox is doing it, it just seems like it would be natural for Sony to follow in those steps. And so that seems more like a confirmation of something we don't actually know yet.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I will say about Apex Legends is it already a free-to-play game?
It is, yes.
So, I mean, that doesn't guarantee that the pay ones will be moving forward. But, it's a good sign for sure.
It is, absolutely. They also talked on their financial report and their conference call here that they had a number of unannounced games currently in development, and all of them are set to release by April 2021. And so alongside their 4 EA partner titles, there was also mention of an EA HD title. So we can read that as a remake or a remaster. And while we can't, quite pin down that this is what it is, there was a report according to VentureBeat. They wrote that, and that HD remaster of an EA game is the Mass Effect trilogy, end quote.
Oh, okay.
That's something I think fans have been asking for a long time. They were kind of hoping to get it this gen.
Yeah.
But I think that if they would release it on PS5, that would be probably more incredible because then you'd have 2 generations since the first Mass Effect. And you could really take care of the processing power to really upgrade.
Yeah.
And redesign those games a bit.
Plus, people really want to see that blue and green, those blue and green choices at the very end of the trilogy in like Ultra HD.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. But I do think that makes sense because if you look at the two or three generational leap between Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes and how well those have turned out.
Right.
Waiting a couple generations and then upgrading the Mass Effect trilogy will really be appealing because I feel like it's really going to allow you to sleep with your favorite alien in 4K. And so people will be super excited to see, their Shepard sleep with, one of those weird ass aliens in 4K. At 60 frames per second too. Don't forget that.
Well,
it will speed up. All right. Moving on. Sorry, I take a sip of coffee there, not spill it on myself.
Congrats for not spilling.
Thank you. It's one of the rare times today. MK11.
Ooh, I can't wait.
I can't wait either. I love that game. In fact, I thought about firing back up because I haven't played as Spawn yet. And I was waiting for that DLC out of all of them the most, that character drop.
Yeah.
Announced this week that there is something called Aftermath, which picks up the narrative from the original game, released, a little over, about a year and a half ago now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And so just let me read I'll read this statement real quick. It says, quote, Fire God Liu Kang, the new keeper of time and protector of Earthrealm, must now enlist the help of unlikely allies and familiar foes to forge a new history as the fate of 2 worlds hang in the balance, end quote. That's their press release. Most importantly, the expansion also adds a bunch of new characters to the playable roster, including Fujin, Shiva, and RoboCop. It also adds friendship right? Instead of fatalities, friendships.
Yeah.
Also brings those back as well.
Ugh.
Matt, we do have one issue with this, though. I am super stoked about this DLC, but I want to ask you, how much is it going to cost me?
It's going to cost you $40, Robert.
$40.
That's correct.
$40.
That's right.
Now, depending on what edition you bought of MK, or if you bought the season pass or the character pass for season 1,
which I believe both of us did,
you're probably dropping between $80 and $100.
Correct.
Now, you get to drop another $40.
Correct.
Does this seem a little too much to you?
Yeah, a little bit, but they are not dumb. Look at those 3 characters. Those are 3 very beloved characters. RoboCop is a phenomenal choice. And then those friendships. I mean, that's what's going to sell this DLC.
Yeah. Now, I did read somewhere that some of the friendships, I believe it was Push Square, perhaps, some of the friendships will be included for free in a free update, but the other ones will be paid for behind that paywall. Now, my other question to you, though, so I agree with you that people have been waiting for this a while.
Yeah.
My other question for you, though, is where did they get this price? Do you think that this is going to be a meaty expansion? Do you think it's going to be longer than 2 or 3 hours?
I mean, it almost seems like a whole new narrative, right? So, right. I mean, how long did the storyline take for the first part?
I believe 8 to 10 hours. Does that sound right?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's another 4 at least.
You think?
Yeah. I mean, just based on the trailer that I saw, it was pretty jam-packed full of story things. Not, just like about the friendships or whatever. Like, it was really just like focused on the story of how Shang Tsung is kind of, the unlikely ally and going to try to help Liu Kang restore balance and things like that. So, I don't know. I mean, it looks pretty awesome, but I think that it's going to be at least, I would imagine, at least 4 hours worth of storyline content. I'd be kind of shocked if it was anything less.
Okay. Do you think that's worth the 40 though? Along with the other stuff you're getting?
I mean, I think that kind of makes it standard, I guess, right?
Okay.
I mean, how much are each of the characters normally?
$10.
Yeah, $5-10. So, 3 characters, 4 hours worth of storyline and friendships for $40. I mean, I feel like that's pretty reasonable. Although I will say, I mean, if I could just buy the characters or just the friendships, I might do that. Depending on the price, obviously.
I guess that's what I was trying to get at. Do we care enough about the story? Because a lot of people actually felt that the story was one of the worst parts of MK11.
I mean, I understand that. I enjoyed it, but, I can understand where people would be kind of griping. But I think also maybe that's why they did this, right? Maybe why they did this kind of aftermath storyline to kind of make up for what people didn't like.
Okay.
I don't know. At the very least, it doesn't seem like a quick cash grab.
Okay.
It seems like they really kind of like put time and effort into this. You know what I mean? As opposed to like, okay, well, we're just going to throw some characters and friendships at you and it's going to cost you $20 or $30. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, again, I am excited about it. It looks decent. I'm just concerned that $40 is a little steep. And I know that, I think Skyrim back in 2011, had an expansion that was $40. And I think that's kind of where this price setting came from for a lot of times for these expansions. But I don't know that for a fighting game, $40 fits the bill.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, so we'll be curious. I will put it this way. This is very much a wait and see for me. Yeah. There's no way I see myself purchasing this day one.
Correct. Yeah, I want to see like how long the story is. And, because like I said, I did enjoy that and I probably would kind of dive into that. And, again, those are 3 good choices as far as characters. And I mean, man, just to see in the couple of friendships they've shown, I can't wait to see the rest of them. I just want to see them so bad.
Yeah, I will say that there's definitely work put into this. It's not, like you said, a cash grab. No matter what a community may think, I do worry. I will be curious to see how well it does. And you and I are also not the average gamer, right? You and I are really well informed. Most of the audience who listens to podcasts is really well informed. I don't know that the average gamer is going to care. They're going to see $40. They're going to see what this is, and they're going to go, I need this.
Yeah.
Because if people remember, MK11 was in the top 10 selling games last year.
Exactly.
And so it clearly has mass appeal.
Yeah. And again, going back to the friendships, like people have been wanting that for the past like 2-3 games.
Yeah.
So for them to finally bring that back.
Yeah. And I almost feel like that's the hook that they knew would get people to bite.
Yeah.
They're like, what can we do? Because if we just give them story DLC and a couple characters, people will be like, not worth it. But they throw in those friendships and everybody's like losing their flipping mind. Like, this is the most incredible
right.
idea since sliced bread.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Anything else we want to say about that? Or
No, I think that's good. I think we covered that pretty well.
I do have one quick question. I know who Shiva is. I know who Robocop is. I don't remember Fujin.
I believe he was part of that Shaolin Monks game.
Oh, that explains it.
I believe he was like the mentor, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you just answered my question in one fell swoop.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm sure there's someone out there like, that's totally wrong, you idiot. But I'm pretty positive that's what it is.
Yeah, I never played any of those, so I'm sure there's also somebody going out there, well, how can you really love MK and not play the Shallow Monk games? Well, easy, because I just didn't care for those at all.
Yeah.
All right, good enough for me. All right, Matt, so let's move on. Techland.
Let me...
go ahead.
Sorry, I just looked it up. Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero.
Oh, okay, yes, a game I did not play.
Yeah, but I definitely did play that one. I do remember that.
Well, thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah,
Saved me
welcome.
some time here.
You're welcome.
All right, Matt. So Techland, the developer who kind of came out of nowhere in 2016 or 2015, actually, and shocked people with their incredible Dying Light game.
Ooh, so good.
So good. Has been working on Dying Light 2 for what seems like forever. Now, we got a piece of news this week that kind of tied in nicely with another piece of news in the sense that I think we got more out of this story than we were meant to, but I'm kind of excited. I want your take on this as well, because we haven't heard anything about Dying Light 2 in quite a while. And so a lot of people started to assume that it's going to be moved to PlayStation 5 because it was also delayed indefinitely earlier this year.
Right.
Now, there has been speculation that Techland has been purchased and that there was some arguments behind the scenes that they've been bought by Microsoft and that, you know, there was a lack of clear direction and the narrative designer, Chris Avalon, was causing communication issues, All this was going on. Apparently, none of this is the case. Techland PR has been quick to stamp out the unsubstantiated chatter, taking to Twitter. Ola Sanjay, senior PR manager at Techland, tweeted that the studio remains an independent developer, has not been bought by another company, and is continuing on unabated or uninterrupted or unconflicted, I guess, to launch the game on PlayStation 4. So I wanted your thoughts on that just briefly. Not necessarily the purchasing part, not necessarily the other part about the narrative mess, which seems to be squashed, but the fact that it's going to still be a PlayStation 4 game. Yeah,
I mean, I feel like it's been in development so long, it kind of has to be PlayStation 4 at this point. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but like, you know, I feel like we've heard about it for so long, right? Like, I feel like they probably started it like right after the other one.
Yeah, they had to.
Because it did so well. But yeah, I feel like it's also kind of lingered there as opposed to like really being released. But we'll see. I mean, obviously, it seems more and more likely with everything going on that, you know, the next generation of consoles is going to happen in November. I would be shocked. I mean, I just don't know when they're going to drop it. I would imagine that maybe in October, like that kind of like pre-holiday push.
Okay.
But I mean, at that point, it's like, gosh, are people really going to get it?
Yeah, I really wish this was a PlayStation 5 game.
Me too.
I think it would take advantage of it in a much stronger and better and fascinating way.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it doesn't look like we'll get that either. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, unless it's one of those things where like the Xbox Series X, where you buy it on Xbox, you know, or, you know, buy it on PlayStation 4 and you get it for PS5.
Right.
So who knows?
Which, again, would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I wanted to take advantage of the next gen.
Remind me, is Dying Light an exclusive?
No. And that was the rumor of them being bought from Microsoft, why it was such a big deal, because then it's, you know, what happens to PlayStation owners.
Right. That makes sense.
So we'll see. Either way, I'm excited for it to come out. I'm a little antsy and nervous about when it's going to come out because fall is already looking like a big deal with Cyberpunk. And I can't imagine anybody willingly wants to compete with Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
You know, I can't see one single developer being like, oh, I can't wait for our game to go up against this behemoth known as Cyberpunk. Yeah.
Well, also, though, I mean, I don't know. That's why I think October, because like September would be a really good. I mean, September is when Cyberpunk's coming out, right? September 19th, I believe.
Yes.
So, a month later, I can understand that. I mean, especially due to the different styles of the game, right? They're two different games.
Right.
First person parkour kind of zombie game. And, I'm assuming third person, or is it first? I can't remember.
What, Cyberpunk?
Yeah.
Cyberpunk's first person.
Okay. So like a first person shooter. I don't know. I still feel like they're kind of different games, but
they are different games. I just can't imagine that. I mean, as big as Cyberpunk is, if it's just like The Witcher, are you going to be done with it in a month and go, you know what, I'm going to set this game of the year down for Dying Light 2, which don't get me wrong. I think Dying Light 2 is going to be phenomenal. I just can't imagine it going up against Cyberpunk or anybody wanting to go up against Cyberpunk, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. Like, I would not want to go up against Cyberpunk.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can't say I blame them.
No. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Again, it'll be interesting. And that's why a PlayStation 5 release would make more sense, because then at least you'd have the next gen. You'd separate yourself from Cyberpunk, who's also doing PS4.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It'll be very fascinating.
Yeah, it will be.
All right. Here we go. Prince of Persia. Ooh. Ubisoft has been busy with websites recently. Last week, it registered the domain for Assassin's Creed Valhalla just hours before the game was officially revealed. And now it's registered princeofpersia6.com. Is the publisher finally bringing the action platforming franchise back from the dead? So it's not concrete proof we're getting Prince of Persia 6, but it is a very specific domain. So it does probably mean something. And so with so many next-gen events coming soon, now, obviously, we didn't see anything at the Xbox Series X showcase, but Sony does have a PS reveal supposedly set for late May or early June, according to several sources, including former Kotaku editor and writer Jason Schreier, who almost always knows everything. It is possible that Ubisoft may be gearing up for an announcement. They are part of that Summer Game Fest, I believe, as well, if I remember correctly.
And I feel like a lot of the time Ubisoft goes with Sony kind of exclusive stuff.
They do.
Not necessarily exclusive, but like they'll give Sony like a couple extra missions or something like that. You know what I mean? I feel like Ubisoft and Sony over the years have had more of a partnership than Xbox and Ubisoft.
But did you notice that with that Valhalla stuff, it seemed like it was advertised with Xbox. So it makes me wonder if they're switching this gen.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. It seems like very Xbox driven for Valhalla. So, who knows? Maybe this is where I kind of put my foot in my mouth, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'd be interested because I've never seen a developer kind of split it evenly. It'd be interesting for Ubisoft to take an opposite approach here and go, well, you guys get Valhalla, but you guys will get Prince of Persia.
Right.
I don't think that'll happen, but that'd be kind of cool. I'd love to see that.
I will say that Prince of Persia, Sands of Time was one of my most favorite games ever. I love that game so much.
I'm going to openly admit to something here. I've never played a Prince of Persia game.
Oh, you tool.
Not one.
Yeah, Sands of Time was probably the best.
Okay. Well, if it was on PS Now, I would gladly jump in.
Yeah. Yeah, you would like die and then you could like rewind time to like save yourself. It was pretty great. I don't know.
Yeah, and I remember you talking an awful lot about it. And I remember thinking to myself, oh yeah, I'll definitely jump into that at some point, and then never did. Whoops. So who knows? Okay. Maybe the time will be now for me to get into the Prince of Persia series.
There you go.
We shall find out. All right, Matt. A little bit of controversy this week. I just wanted to bring this up. I don't want to spend much time on it. I just want to read the article or parts of it. It came from several sources, and that is the Doom developer ID Software confirmed that it parted ways with composer Mick Gordon amid a very public social media spat. The fallout came to the fore when audio engineer posted an image of the waveforms from one of the songs on Doom Eternal's soundtrack, showed a heavily compressed file with less dynamic sound range compared to Doom 2016 soundtrack. Now, if you're an audiophile like Dave, you might know what that means. For the rest of us, maybe not. Anyway, the original poster placed the blame at Gordon's feet, though he was quick to distance himself from the project, claiming he'd only mixed, quote, a small handful of tracks and, quote, wouldn't have done that, end quote. He went on to tell another fan that he doubts he'll work with ID Software again, alluding to some kind of breakdown with communications. So that naturally led to people getting their pitchforks out on the internet, giving abuse towards the developer's lead audio designer, who's responsible for mixing the remainder of the soundtrack. And the backlash has been so bad that executive producer Marty Stratton was forced to, on Reddit, to comment and say, quote, some have suggested that we've been careless with or disrespectful of the game music. Others have speculated that Mick wasn't given the time or creative freedom to deliver something different or better. The fact is, none of that is true. What has become unacceptable to me are the direct and personal attacks on our lead audio designer. And then, end quote. He went on to say that while Gordon's music is defining, they, quote, struggled to connect on some more of the production-related realities of development and, quote, communication around those issues have eroded trust, end quote. So there's a lot going on there, but it doesn't sound like he'll be back to make more music. Now, I loved the music in Doom 2016. I thought it was just as good in 2020s. So that's a shame because it was really, really good stuff. We'll see what happens. I'm not really concerned either way with that. I just thought that was interesting that you don't usually see spats over music like that for game design.
Right.
Or, you know, stuff that heavy being published on the internet, I guess. So kind of a big deal, I guess, in some regard, the way that was, you know, handled and treated.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Matt, this next one's kind of one brief one, and then we'll jump into another interesting conversational one here after a couple brief ones here. First and foremost, Saints and Sinners PSVR was shadow dropped this past week. It is what PC players considered to be one of the best VR games to date. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, launched for PlayStation VR, is available to purchase right now in the PlayStation Store, coming in at $39.99, and the Tourist Edition priced around, I think it's $49.99 if I remember correctly as well. I know you don't have a PSVR.
Correct.
This is supposed to be an incredible game. And so I've been watching online clips all week, and it just looks like one of the best weighty combat games that VR has seen yet. So I'm excited to eventually dive into it once it goes on sale, but it does look like it sets a standard for combat in VR, melee combat. So I just wanted to mention that for people who are interested that are PSVR people, definitely one you want to check out. Matt, it's been a while though, since we've had THQ in the news.
Oh, what? How's that possible?
I call this next story THQ trading cards because THQ Nordic, a publisher who in the past couple of years has been buying up the IP to games left and right, in case you haven't noticed, decided to start swapping them with another company. Koch Media is the other party in question, with the two agreeing on terms that will see the transfer of certain IPs both ways. Now, what's interesting about this is both companies are owned by the same head company. So I'm not quite sure where they're going with this, but THQ Nordic now owns the rights to Risen, Sacred, Rush for Berlin, Second Sight, and Singles Flirt Up Your Life. Meanwhile, they traded that to Koch Media. They gave them Red Faction and Painkiller. And so THQ Nordic pointed out that they plan to evaluate the potential for remasters, ports, sequels, and new content immediately with these IPs, saying, quote, we have something in mind already, end quote. And I'm not quite sure why they did that, again, because THQ Nordic AB purchased Koch Media's parent company, Koch Media Holding, back in February of 2018. So I'm not quite sure why they actually swapped, unless it's something about development teams.
Yeah, I don't know. I believe it's pronounced Coke.
Is it Coke?
I believe, yeah.
Okay. I've never said that one out loud, so.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like Koch, but I believe it's pronounced Coke.
Oh, all right. Well, you live and you learn.
Yeah.
Did you play Tony Hawk back in the day?
Oh, I played the newest one, which everyone hated.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, in case you've been living under a rock, there's more than likely going to be a new Tony Hawk Pro Skater game this year. Various insiders have hinted at existence. Dead Set posted, the band posted to Facebook that 5 of its songs would be included in it last month as well. And now professional skateboarder Jason Dill has gone on record in a new interview saying that his song is also part of the soundtrack as well as his own board. And so there you go. It's all but confirmed. We're getting a new Tony Hawk Skater. Now, if you can't wait for a new Tony Hawk game, there is Skater XL, which is a real skateboarding title confirmed for PlayStation 4. And that releases on July 7th of this year because it locked in its release date this past week. Mm-hmm. Cyberpunk City. We got a lot of Cyberpunk news this past week. Developer CD Projekt Red wanted to let us know that something called Night City Wire is going to take place on June 11th. We don't know what that means. We don't know what it is, but I'm excited for it. In other news, they also made the ESRB rating public, and it revealed some little details, no pun intended here. As you'd expect, the title got a mature rating due to graphic violence, scenes of sexual nature, drug use, and very strong language. But the rating also reads, the game contains nudity and sexual material. Players can select a gender and customize their character. Customization can include depictions of breasts, buttocks, and genitalia, as well as various sizes and combinations of genitals, end quote. So just in case you love your character creators and you've always thought, boy, I wish I could fix my genitals in that game. There you go.
Well, I mean, there's always been that thing of like, it seems like you could be trans in the game, correct?
Yes.
So I'm not necessarily surprised by this.
No, I'm not either.
It is so funny how they break it down so formally and clinically in the rating, but, I'm not surprised.
No, I'm not either. And it makes sense too, because it's very cyberpunk to want to transform your character in such a way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like what on a body in a cyberpunk world wouldn't be modified, I guess. And so it only makes sense that you could modify your bits and pieces.
Indeed.
Yeah, in case you were, nervous or hoping that you or concerned that you weren't going to get to transform your character's body parts, don't worry. Rest assured, CD Projekt Red has you uncovered, I guess, is probably the better term.
I was just about to say that, probably uncovered.
Uncovered.
Also, as far as the one right before it, Night City Wire, Night City is the location of the game, correct?
Yes, and so it could be something like a news story.
In my opinion, that's going to be like a news flash or something like that.
Yeah, perhaps maybe a news story that covers or looks at some of the events happening in Night City.
Yeah, or maybe the events leading up to what's going to happen. Either way, pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely epic. I cannot wait. So, the Cyberpunk news, much like the Last of Us news, is going to start really trickling out, I think, over the next couple of weeks and months.
Oh,
so that we get a full taste of what to expect. All right. So moving on. If you've played through Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which Matt has, you may know how huge that game is. I, of course, know how huge it is and have not finished it. It obviously takes place in an enormous map and has pretty much endless missions and other activities to engage in. You could keep you busy for potentially hundreds of hours.
That is very true. I did at least one of those 100 hours.
Yes. And I did tell you last week that if Valhalla, I wanted to call it Ragnarok, if Valhalla is in fact that big, I will probably not want to play it because I just don't have time for that based on my life.
Yeah, of course.
However, it sounds like Ubisoft Montreal is scaling things back a little. The publisher's head of communications for the Middle East, Malek Tafaha, sorry if I butchered that, has responded to feedback about Odyssey's size and scope. According to him, Valhalla will, quote, be neither the longest nor the biggest game in the series, end quote. And so based on that, it sounds like we won't have to sink as many hours or travel as far. And so I think that's welcome news to people who felt Odyssey was a little too bloated. Now, that is a translation from an original Arabic tweet. However, I think that makes sense. And I can see where they probably took that, because Ubisoft has been good about feedback recently. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they took that and went, well, people aren't exactly happy with the size of this thing. Perhaps we should scale it down just a bit.
Yeah.
I'll take it, because honestly, I was a little horrified by the size of the other one. of Odyssey.
Well, the other thing is like for how many studios have been said to be working on Valhalla, you thought to yourself, man, this is going to be just as big, if not bigger.
Yeah.
So to kind of get that out of the way a little bit, and you're like, okay, all right, I can calm down just a little bit. I can breathe a little bit. Kind of makes you anxious, right? Like I'm just like, oh, I got to put another 100 hours into this freaking game. Great.
Yeah.
I just finished the other one because I had to put in so much time to it.
Yeah, exactly. And I, as much as I love the idea of putting hundreds of hours into a game, I also know I cannot do it. It's just like humanly impossible for me.
Right.
At this point. So yeah, to hear that it's kind of refreshing, I guess. My question to you is, I guess with this is, did you want a smaller experience? How small would you like it to go? Like how much more, because it's one thing to say it's going to be not as big or small as some of the other games, but how much smaller would you have liked Odyssey to be? I
mean, here's the thing. If I didn't put over 100 hours into it, I would be okay with playing the 30-hour DLC.
Uh-huh.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, I would be more than okay with that. But since I put in so much time, I'm just like, do I really want to go back and put that much more time into just a DLC? I mean, I loved the games when they came out every year, but they were like, 40 hours, 50 maybe for completionists? You know what I mean? I liked those size games.
Yeah.
I still like those size games. Give me a game that I can complete start to finish for like 50 hours.
Right.
Start to finish and almost 100% complete everything. It is kind of nice to hear that. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it really ends up. But I would still expect it to be pretty huge.
Okay.
It's okay if they cut back, right? If they have like way better graphics because it's next gen and really kind of like cool scenery and how things look and want you to explore and put time into it that way as opposed to go through storyline kind of stuff. I'm okay with that. I don't have to go over like 72 different Greek islands. You know what I mean? Like,
you don't want to explore 72 Greek islands?
In real life, maybe, sure, but not in video game life.
Yeah, that was a little rough. I will say that was exhausting, and I didn't even get through it like you did.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So Matt, the last thing I wanted to wrap up with and touch on. Well, let me look. No, I'm sorry. I got a couple smaller ones here that are not as nearly important. They're more like release dates and things like that. But one of the big ones I wanted to finish up touching on is that Merge Games this week announced a physical standard and signature edition of Streets of Rage 4 for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC that's due out this summer. Now, normally that wouldn't seem like a big deal to most people. But what happened was, and what I discovered, is that there's this wonderful little thing, you may have heard of them, called limited run games.
Well, yeah, I think so, a little bit. I think you've mentioned them a couple of times before.
Yeah, most people will recognize them, right? Well, limited run games had, I almost call them little run games. Limited run games had a wonderful limited edition Streets of Rage collection come out, right?
Yeah.
So that people could have the game physically and just enjoy being able to be a physical collectors. Well, the problem with that is that no one told anyone, apparently, including limited run games. The publisher did not tell them that they were in fact releasing their own limited run of this at retail this summer. And so where this all adds up is there was apparently some anger and disappointment online that I saw this past week regarding limited run games' decision to have a limited run of this, and Merge Games also deciding to announce this as well. And so I'm not blaming one party or the other, but it does seem like there was a miscommunication somewhere or some secrecy somewhere that caused these two companies to both announce they were releasing a limited run of the game with different items too. And so people were pretty upset about that.
Yeah. So you might say that there's some rage on the virtual streets.
That's right. But I can't blame them.
I don't necessarily blame the publisher for wanting to put out their own version, but if you already have a thing like limited run games doing something for you, why would you need to do that?
Yeah, it sounds like you're stepping a little bit on their toes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't blame people for being upset. It's just a shame that it has happened this way. And it seems like it's more on this publisher than it is on Limited Run themselves. Limited Run, signs these contracts and tells publishers they're free to do whatever they want after they've done with this. And so that's the other thing that I kind of caught my eye, though. I saw a tweet from Limited Run that said, we have these deals with these publishers, and after the deal was done, they are free to do what they wish with the IP. And so It sounds like they went, well, okay, you know what? There's probably higher demand for this than we anticipated. We'll go ahead and put out our own special type of limited edition. But I think for collectors who thrive on that being, knowing that they got the only limited run of this.
Right.
I think that's why people are upset about it.
It's like getting the first edition of a book.
Yes. And then finding out that somebody else was going to print the quote and call it the first edition of a book as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For those of you millennials out there, a book is something that is written on paper and sold in stores physically.
That's right. And people used to pick them up and read them. So I wanted to touch on that really quickly because I found that very fascinating this past week. And I thought it was kind of a shame that I looked at the limited edition this standard edition that Merge Games is putting out, and it's got some pretty cool stuff in it. So it's a shame because I almost bought the limited run games edition of Streets of Rage, and I would have been upset if I dished out $30 or $40 and then had to dish out another 30 or 40 if I was a collector in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just a couple other things to run through, Matt. Well, actually, let me tell you, I did include it here. The signature edition includes a copy of the game, 5 limited edition enamel pins featuring each one of the fighters, Cherry, Blaze, Axel, Adam, and Floyd, a numbered collector's certificate, Axel Stone's blue bandana with a Streets of Rage 4 logo, an outer sleeve featuring alternative artwork, and a sturdy quote-unquote Sierra foam insert as well. So pretty neat stuff. All right. So moving on. Destiny Clone, as I call this, Disintegration, will launch digitally for PS4, Xbox One, and PC via Steam on June 16th for $49.99 via publisher Private Division and developer V1 Interactive. Do you care about that game at all?
I haven't even heard of it until just now.
Oh, okay. It's go check out our trailer for it. It's very much looks like Destiny with robots.
Oh, okay.
If you read it, it's basically a first-person sci-fi shooter. PSVR Vader also got a release date. All 3 episodes of Vader Immortal, a Star Wars VR series, which launched on Oculus headsets in May of 2019, September 19, and November 2019, are coming to PSVR simultaneously this summer. And then the last piece is PS Now, Matt. You and I both got it. They weren't available for us last week, but they've since announced them then. This month, Rainbow Six Siege, The Evil Within 2, and Get Even are joining the PlayStation Now family. And so I did want to bring those 3 up for you. Any thoughts on those 3?
I saw those and I was like, man, Rob's super pleased this month.
Well, the thing is I own Rainbow Six, so don't care. Evil Within 2 I own, so I don't care. And Get Even, I didn't even remember what that was.
Yeah.
And so normally I would be super pleased if I didn't own those games. Because those would have been games I would have been much in the zone to try and check out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess I forgot that you owned both of those.
Yeah. All right. That's it for Pitt. For the news.
Well, there is one little, as far as the news goes, yes.
Yes.
There is one little thing we like to do.
Oh, what's that?
I think it's time for See You Soon.
See you soon. All right. So let's go ahead and look through the video games that are dropping this week if you are listening to us on time. This is the drop. We're going to recognize all of these, even the ones that were on here last week that must have got pushed back to this week.
That's right. Up first is one of those said games, Emma, Lost in Memories, PS Vita, PS4, digital out May 11th. Emma, Lost in Memories is a 2D puzzle platformer game in which all the platforms and walls start disappearing progressively as you touch them. Think, strategize, run, jump, and feel in a surreal and poetic world where everything fades away.
All right.
I still do like the concept for that game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sounds great. It's just, I don't know if it's one that I will jump into.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Fault Milestone 1, out May 15th. Fault is a series of science fantasy cinematic novels using a unique 3D camera system for a visually immersive reading experience. Follow Selphine, the bubbly princess, and her sharp-witted royal guardian, Ratona, on their journey of a lifetime back to their homeland of Rugzenhad. Goodness.
You were struggling with that one.
I'm excited for this next one.
Up next, we got Hunt Down, PS4 Digital. In the mayhem-filled streets of the future, where criminal gangs rule and cops fear to tread, only the bounty hunters can free the city from the corrupt fist of felony. Lay waste to the criminal underworld and make a killing in this hard-boiled action comedy arcade shooter.
That's a good write-up.
Yeah, I like it. That sounds good.
The trailer's amazing. Did you watch the trailer?
I have not. I'm going to
Oh, man.
because that sounds so good.
I sent it to you. It's really funny. It's very tongue-in-cheek, and it's very like an 80s action movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
Iron Fury laughs at the idea of mandatory checkpoints and straight paths through shooting galleries. But just because this is a true old school first-person shooter doesn't mean we've ignored all the good new stuff the last 2 decades have brought. 3D Realms, Voidpoint, and 1C Entertainment have taken the best of both worlds and cooked it all into a bloody stew. I've heard good things about that one.
I will say that it's called Ion Fury.
Oh, Ion. What was I saying?
The way you were saying it, it sounded like you were mispronouncing iron. You're like, Ion Fury.
Ion.
Yeah. I was just like, what is he saying?
Iron Fury.
Almost like your Pittsburgh accent was coming out right there.
Yeah, it was a mix of Pittsburgh and like North Carolinian accent there.
That's right, exactly. All right, up next we got Island Saver, PS4 Digital, out May 13. A group of amazing islands needs your help. Well, why are they? That means they're not that amazing. Anyways, a group of amazing islands needs your help.
You're so amazing. Why do you need my help?
Horrid plastic waste has washed up, and you need to sort it out with your trusty trash blaster. But look out for the litter bugs. They love mess, and they're out to muck things up. You need to wash away gloop, collect litter, earn coins, and rescue the Bankamals.
All right.
So they're garbage islands?
I don't know. It's disturbing.
I mean, it sounds pretty funny, actually.
It sounds like liberal propaganda is what it sounds like.
Yeah, just move on to the next one, you weirdo.
I see you, Thorax. All right. Pixel Ripped 1995 PSVR Digital. This looks dope. Pixel Ripped is back with brand new nostalgia-fueled virtual reality game within a game. This time in the year 1995. To restore balance to multiple dimensions, our video game hero Dot recruits the help of our best gamer from 1995, an unassuming 9-year-old boy named David. Join this unlikely duo through challenging throwbacks to all your favorite classics from the late 16-bit and early 32-bit era of games inside a virtual reality world. So you're playing as the 9-year-old boy who goes to the arcade or goes to his house and plays these 16-bit games through his eyes.
That's cool.
In these 32-bit games, yeah.
Interesting. All right, up next we got Pong Quest. PS4 Digital, out May 15. Pong Quest is a new take on the seminal arcade smash. Take control of a brave young paddle and traverse treacherous lands, each loosely based on various classic hits, in this uniquely Pong-themed dungeon-crawling RPG. Dress up your paddle and equip special balls with unique abilities to battle aggressive foes in quest or online opponents.
Ooh, interesting. Not to be outdone, though, Potata, Fairy Flower. This adventure platformer tells the story of a young witch exploring fairy forests to find herself and save her home. Join her quest now. Immerse yourself into a picture-perfect fantasy. Solve numerous puzzles, fight enemies, reveal all the secrets, and don't forget to save the world.
Oh, yeah, don't forget. All right, up next, we got Tacticool Champs. That's right, Tacticool, because they're awesome and cool. PS4 digital out May 15. Tactical Champs combines the best features of shooter and arcade game, where up to 4 players fight with each other in a closed arena. Quick matches, a wide variety of weapons, and unlimited ways to eliminate the opponents are waiting for you.
Not to be outdone by Thy Sword. Thy Sword is a retro-inspired hack and slash roguelike with procedural generated levels. Pick from different hero types like the Barbarian and Valkyrie to break the tyranny of the Dark Overlord.
Okay.
All right.
Cool beans.
Well, I'm definitely going to say my pick this week is either Pixel Ripped if you got a VR headset or Hunt Down.
Cool. Yeah, I'd probably go with Hunt Down or maybe, I don't know. I really do enjoy the concept of Emma Lost in Memories.
Yeah. It might be good. It might be like a Celeste clone.
Yeah, while we were watching or while we were reading things, I kind of looked at the trailer and it's pretty cool. It is kind of looks Celeste-ish, but like literally everything disappears as you touch it.
Nice. Yeah, so maybe that is worth a look.
Yeah.
I definitely highly recommend that even if you're not going to get it, at least go watch the Hunt or not the Hunt Showdown. That's the other game. Go watch. I knew I'd say that at least once. Go watch Hunt Down's trailer for everybody.
Okay. Yeah.
Definitely worth a viewing 2 minutes of your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Matt. That wraps it up. It brings us safely through another week. And so we thank you for joining us. Thanks for hanging out with us. Remember, if you like what you hear, you can go share and subscribe us on your favorite podcasting service. If you're just coming out of the woods and out of isolation and you've got your job back and you want to throw $1 our way, you can head to patreon.com/WeAre1UR2 and help keep the mics on. And until next time, game on.
Game on. Hunt Down. Outro music. Hunt Down. Action-packed game. Hunt Down. Outro music. Yeah.
Need like a guitar riff in there.
Yeah.
All right. Good times.
Good times.